Hey everyone, and welcome again to another one of these podcast episodes. It's been a while again, more of life, I guess. Hope all is well and things have been, trudging along. How have both of you been?
I can't complain.
Good.
Just really busy, yeah. And yourself?
Great. So I described on a call earlier, I was on kind of cloud nine, but
Oh,
yeah. But yeah, that's me. Always a ray of positivity, I suppose.
well, why
That's
were you
good to
on
hear.
cloud nine?
Yeah, tell us.
I don't know. It's just a feeling I woke up with.
Oh,
Yeah.
you wake up with good feeling.
Well, well, I'm not going to say shouldn't we all or don't we all because that's presumptuous. But
No, we don't go. Not.
but how do you?
Yeah, usually only in a good mood after coffee.
So like, how do you wake up then? Like, oh, what's that feeling you have the first thing in the morning?
My alarm is
Coffee.
going off. My alarm is going off, and I don't know where I am.
I'm confused. I'm scared. What's happening?
Help me! I don't know where I
Oh
am.
no.
Where's the coffee?
Oh well, yeah, definitely not me in the morning. I'm definitely different. But we're all built differently. We all start our days differently anyway. Um,
Very true.
yeah.
Very true.
So, any guesses for what the topic is about today? So it's titled "My Great Escape." What are your guesses? What do you think it is this time?
How to rob a
Escaping the
bank.
rat race.
Okay. Well, we both talked about money.
Um,
That's true.
from Udine, is that what you think as well?
I don't know. It's so open to interpretation because it could be trying to escape from, the rat race, as Good says, like the daily grind,
Mm,
or it could be trying to, I don't know, escape when you need a break from everything.
mm,
And what is sort of the greatest escapes you've had?
mm,
Oh, I didn't think about that.
yeah.
What
Yeah,
about the
there's
Matrix?
potentially, yeah, there's even like a potentially a third one where you look at your life and like what are the near misses that could have really changed your life, and maybe you learned later on that it's probably not the best thing that had what you wanted panned out. So it's like a great escape from something that would have led you down a very different path.
I think Dean's a bit closer. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, I think it's not great escaping from financially or work or anything like that. Is when we are so involved with life, we often find ourselves needing some sort of escape from this life. I know that's a bit redundant in that sense, but so this cast is just about that. It's about escapism, and what are common forms of escapism, what they present themselves as, what they represent in our lives, the effects, the ill effects, or the positive effects of escapism, why we use it, and things like that. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that because we're all so focused in certain areas, and in our downtime, um, we just kind of separate ourselves from the world and do our own things and stuff like that. So, escapism, can you describe it? I mean, in that sense.
Good.
He just queued you up and you queued him back.
Yeah, it was like take the hospital pass back. Okay, so I would see escapism as just a break from like where you currently are. It's an opportunity to decompress. It's creating space away from things, space for yourself to, like I said, decompress, recharge, or just feel like you have something for yourself. It really does just depend on what your idea of escaping actually is.
So I like the idea that of the recharge, um, because and the reason why I give that to you is a little bit of time to think. Purely because I've been in this situation. It's it's not that you get into the thing of doing the same thing every day, but um, with new challenges in your life, right? And things in your life, trying to improve, right? Let's put it that way, right? You're faced with a lot of um, new stuff you face all the time. Not only in your work life, but in your personal life, in your health, food, or And what's for me is like it's so nice to hear you saying about the charge because it reminds me that there's also a time where you need to go. I need to understand where I am and am I focusing on how I can take some time apart from that just to uh, have that space, right?
Mm-hmm.
And be away from all the things that are in front of me all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I, the aspect of getting away, like you said, is something that I've also still need to explore in terms of how much time in my week or in my month do I need to spend getting away. And that is something that I still need to focus on. But I definitely like the idea, especially now in the month that we have a lot of public holidays and things like that. It's nice to take a day or two there when you can actually like decompress, like you said, and not necessarily reevaluate who you are, but just to decompress and focus on creative things that change the other side of your brain chemistry. I think that is something that's so important to do. Uh, if I would put it that way, I think that's how I see it. It's something where you look at all the facets of your life and which parts you aren't addressing. You know, um, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Then try and do some of those so that it reframes all the other stuff that you're doing.
I think my own recent thoughts.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Dean.
Hmm? No, no, carry on.
Yeah, my own recent thoughts on escapism is that people often use it in a negative sense and are
Yeah,
not facing issues in their lives and are kind of putting everything on the back burner. So, like forms of escapism, we'll talk about them just now, but they'll use those forms of escapism to just not deal with things that need to be dealt with at this moment in time. Now, I understand that you both mentioned that it's like decompress time and things like that, but in some sense, I sometimes feel that people are running away from the issues instead of facing them at this instant, or living in this current reality.
Can I
That's
just
just
jump
my
in there?
thought.
No, no, you're 100% right. There's a lot of people that use it to run away from stuff. But while we were talking, it just occurred to me that we're in fairly privileged positions in that we use,
yeah,
like, the three of us would use escapism as a means of decompression.
yeah,
Some people would use it as a way to hide from something that they don't necessarily want to address. But there's two sides to that. There's this what's the word I'm looking for? It's like kicking the can down the road. You don't
mm,
want to face the problem right now,
Mm.
and then there's problems that you actually maybe can't face, or you need help facing. So,
mm,
depression. People that struggle with depression, they tend to lean more on escapism because maybe they don't have the tools to deal with what they're going through. If
yeah,
a kid's being bullied at school, for example, and he doesn't feel or she doesn't feel like she's got support from the parents or siblings, you can feel very alone, and your escapism is just there to help you cope with whatever's going on. You could have a toxic work environment, and yes, a lot of these things can be dealt with, but they're not easy things to deal with. Not that anyone's issues are easy to deal with, but sometimes your escapism is just there to keep you going until you find the tools to help you deal with it.
100%. So I never looked at it that way. While you were saying it, it also dawned on me that, the way we are right now,
We're very blessed.
escapism for us, yeah, it's 100% good. Because we don't look at escapism as a negative, not a negative thing, but we don't look at it as a way out from what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
We are fully enthralled in what we're doing. And we're just taking a break from it to focus. In the way I said it, and the way you alluded to was, we're taking a break from the things that we normally do to pamper ourselves, right? And
Yes,
if that's
ours is
the
rest and recuperation.
dumbest way I can put it, right? to pamper ourselves, restore, recharge, rebuild some portions that we've been neglecting, and then continue. And
Yeah.
like you say, not everybody, and not everybody has that. Some people, escapism is like 80% of the day, 20% is doing the things that they can do. Yeah, it's a different way to look at it. And obviously, I would have looked at it differently maybe a couple of years ago, but now I look at it differently. But that comes from growth, right?
Mm. I mean, there's something else that just popped into my mind right now. I mean, it's not, a person who's, like you said, like an 80/20, isn't a fully functioning like person. It's
Yeah,
someone who, as Dean alluded to as well, isn't capable of handling some of these issues at this current time. They don't have the tools to do so. Um, I'm just wondering as well, with the person who's incapable of functioning at certain levels and using, I'm gonna uh, put forth like teenagers often like shut themselves in their rooms and listen to broody
yeah,
music.
yeah.
Those heavy metal and whatever. That's a common form that we see in most movies, things like that.
Well,
Um, but I'm just thinking like we recognize what these some forms of escapism are.
Hmm.
Can external people then not recognize what we see and provide that guidance and assistance? Like I'm just thinking
See,
Sometimes,
why we don't
sometimes
see
you'll
it.
only see something if you're looking for it. People can
yeah,
be very
but
blissfully unaware.
100%. But are you referring to in those people or in themselves?
Well, it's external person looking at the person from the outside, because if
So
we're able to
parents,
recognize,
siblings, friends,
yeah,
teachers.
It's also difficult because you have to know that person well enough to say in this form now, or performing at his best, or he or she,
mm,
or whoever the person is. That person performing at their normal? You kind of have to know this. I definitely think that they can. Um, Even if I was, if we, the three of us were sitting in a set, right,
mm,
and I was quiet or whatever, after a while you'd be like, okay,
mm,
Um, and it's that same sort of environment. Like if I didn't speak to you guys more than or less than twice a week or something, you'd be like, what's going on? Like even the other day, Dean asked me how I'm doing and stuff like that because we haven't spoken in a while,
mm,
you know.
mm, mm,
Um, Not to say that a thing, but like obviously life gets easier, but you have to know the person, right? Or you have to know their traits, how they do things, where they struggle, and they don't. And it's very difficult to notice unless you're one of those people that's naturally geared to seeing when someone is struggling
mm.
and know that you can see physically that they're not in an emotional state that is normal for what they are. But then you have to read body language and things like that.
I think you're definitely right there. You have to know that person, and you need to know their cues and things. But like if you take a parent or a sibling, for example, that's you don't like there's a child that's struggling with school or whatever it is, the parents and the siblings, they could know that child their entire life, but they may not necessarily pick up something's wrong because maybe the parents or the siblings are also going through stuff. And
Yeah.
until you can pick your head up from your own stuff, it's very hard for you to see what someone else is going through.
That's also true. Something else that just also popped into my mind as well. What if it's been happening so long that it's become the norm, and
Ooh,
Yeah.
people recognize the norm as
that's
the
a
baseline rather
rough
than,
place.
Yeah. That's the problem.
yeah, that
Yeah,
situation.
it's
Then it's like,
very sad to think that that might actually, not might, it probably is happening to a lot more people than we realize.
yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys something.
Hmm.
How many things have you done in your life, and then after a couple of years, you're like, why am I still doing
It was like that in my 20s. Like I've tried to be a bit more conscious of my behavior
Mm.
as I've grown, and like now I have a reasonably good understanding of why I do things.
Yep.
Right,
Yep.
but that's the thing. I mean, it took you a while to get there. And a lot of
Yeah,
people,
that's true.
they just let that breeze by. 10 years later, why do I do this?
Hmm.
It's the same thing as me. I actively make sure before I eat every dish in the house.
Mm.
Not everybody, right? They'll be like, ah, I can wash this tomorrow.
I'm gonna go.
but I
I'm
would.
gonna go wash my dishes after this.
But you know
Thank
what
you,
I mean?
Bradley. Thank you,
It's
Bradley.
a habitual,
Yeah,
it's a habitual thing,
yeah, sure, sure,
right?
sure. Yeah.
And look, that's obviously not like not the worst thing in the world, but it's a habit,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you can extrapolate that to other bad habits.
Yeah.
You still
That's a
ask me,
peace of mind
why do I
thing, though.
still do it?
So,
Like you do it for peace of mind.
Or as a
You
coping
like
mechanism?
the idea. Well, I mean, if you had to really dig into it, what are you looking to cope with? Because you don't like the idea of dishes being left in the sink because,
No, no, that's for sure. But I mean, I'm talking about other bad habits.
oh yeah, no, there are definitely, I mean, like smoking, for example. A lot of people don't need, like, you clearly don't need to be smoking. It's filling your lungs with tar and it's potentially give you cancer one day. But people use it as a coping mechanism and they find it very
Hmm.
difficult to cope without that little escapism. It's like a micro escapism, but you do it multiple times a day.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
A question. I guess good. You can ask, reflect on, as well. You can provide us with some
Yeah.
feedback at some other time as to
There we
why you actually do that.
Well, I can tell you now,
Mm.
it's a stress coping. I know I do it. I know why.
And it,
It's just I find clarity helps. I could. It's 100 times asked myself why do I do this, but
go.
look, there's. It's not that there's lesser of two evils. Some things, just some vices that people enjoy.
mm,
Right? I could like you say, I'm kicking the can down the road to stop or whatever.
mm-hmm.
But uh, nobody's perfect, and I enjoy it, so I continue. Alright.
No, there's definitely habits and things that I do as well
100%.
that they kind of have built up over time. And I think after this, what I'll do is I'll write down some of them, and I'll put little notes to the tag of this podcast as to what I noticed in myself, just
Hmm.
because I'll become
I think that's really cool.
yeah.
You know, what would be cool is to find out what habits we have,
Mm,
because we like-minded things,
mm-hmm,
right? But what habits we have that overlap, what habits we have that don't overlap,
mm.
right? And what we think the key drivers.
Yeah, okay. Well, some homework then for each of us to do.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad. Because you never know. I mean, like me and you could have the same habits, or me and Dean could have the same habits, or you guys should have the same
Mm,
habits. But the key drivers are different, and you could easily solve each other's problems, right?
mm-hmm,
Just by explaining the key drivers. And going, oh, I don't know.
mm.
Yeah.
What were the triggers behind them initially as well?
Hundred
Yeah, so yeah, we'll definitely do that, and we'll give the listeners some feedback as well as to what we found. Okay, so
That's
Review
cool.
session.
yeah, so back on topic. Escapism can be good or bad. Can you think of benefits of good and detriments of the bad?
You want to go
We
first or?
cover some. We cover some of them.
Yeah, no.
Recharging like these days. Is that along the lines of a question?
Yeah.
Recharging, I think, is good. But also, I think for me, one thing I'm looking forward to in terms of getting free time,
Mm-hmm.
right, is being able to look at stuff that's not that I've been neglecting, but been putting off because just, you don't want to start a 5 hour job when you only have 1 hour.
True. Very
And,
true.
but you know what I mean? It's like, I'm keen to do this, I'm keen to do that. Like,
Yeah.
even yesterday, I was like, let's go to the movie.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, let's go to the movie, because we haven't done it. Weekends have been busy, so now we got a free weekend, let's go to the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a recharge, it's an escape. It definitely is an escape. I'm sitting and watching movies, right?
Yep.
But it's like, it's an experience. You feel different centers in your brain. You fulfill different emotions that you've been not leaving behind, but haven't experienced before. So I would say that there's some good aspects to it, definitely, but with moderation. You know, yeah, you can't go watch movies every day. Like you guys said, smoking, drinking. Drinking is big escapism. Gambling, but those are the big ones. Ignoring the things that are important to you is another one.
Mm-hmm.
I think
I do.
your escapism's got to be used with intention. It shouldn't be something you run
Yeah.
to and you do it as a reflex, because then you're in a bad place. But if you use it with intention and purpose to say, I'm using this time to recharge or to just rest up or to do something I love, just to sort of spark some creativity or something like that, then that's a different thing, because then it's empowering. Whereas the other one is more of a dependency.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to say it.
Mm.
I mean, I think you'll answered the next one and maybe a bit of the following question as well. Um, what are some of the bad forms and good forms of escapism? I think you've just provided some examples as well. Can good turn bad if abused?
Yeah,
For a lot of things, yeah. I mean, a little bit of sunshine is good for you, gives you your vitamin D and stuff. But if you stand the whole day in the sun, you get sunburnt and dehydrated. So
wow, that went so far.
that escalated.
Yeah,
But you get the point.
yeah, no, 100% we do.
But like a prime example for us, right, is Ramadan.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and that was so much fun. Everybody had a great
Yeah,
time, you know, and we haven't done it again.
yeah.
But what I was saying is we should do it regularly, but not at all. Because the drawbacks are, like, your time is split between so many other people.
Yeah.
Right? My time is split between that. And if you just take like every Saturday off or every day to chill with like 3 other uncles or one, you're gonna end up neglecting things. Two, you're gonna have people upset.
Yes.
Three,
Yep.
like, and we used to do this go every Friday, every Saturday,
Yeah.
right? And you get into this routine and then also you feel a bit coming because you're not progressing in your house.
No. But using that same example of all gaming, it got quite bad for us. So it was something that started off really good, where, as Prash said, we really enjoyed it because it was with a lot of our friends and things like that. And yeah, all of a sudden it just took over. And after years of doing this over and over again, we didn't progress mentally, we didn't progress emotionally, we didn't progress physically. We're kind of stagnated because Friday, Saturday, Sunday was pretty much just this. And in my own in my own life, I used it as a form of full on escapism, full on.
100%.
I use it as an escape from life itself, in my case, and I only realized how bad it got when personal relationships started getting a bit wonky, and that's when I
Yeah.
said, okay, something like this that started off good, it's progressed to bad, and finally I figured out it was bad, and yeah, I culled it for my life. Not to say that I didn't deal with any situations that arose from it. I dealt with all the topics that came from it, or the aftermath and things like that. And I wasn't just culling something and just not dealing with anything. So I did, but I culled that bad form of escapism completely, and things have been better since. So
Yeah.
Do you know what's
But now
really scary?
you do it in moderation,
yeah,
right?
No, but like before we move on to that,
Yeah.
good. Sorry, it's important that I say this now. What's scary is that so many of us would use it every single week,
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
It wasn't a one person or a two person and different people filled up
No.
that team of five.
no,
It was a lot of us. And whether we talked about it or not, we were all going through a lot and we were all using it as a full on escape. For me, there were times where I was just hiding from life and it was a great place to hide. And
Yeah.
it's like you say, it's not to say that I didn't deal with the things I did, but it was, what's hectic is that so many of us were going through stuff and you wouldn't have that large a group consistently doing something like that if we weren't all going through something quite difficult.
Yeah, there was consistently 10 of
But
us,
also,
dude.
you know what was even more dumb about it? That we actively discussed the fact that we would escape it.
Yeah, yeah,
Because so many times we would have this discussion. You know what? This is the only fun thing that we do right
or we look forward. You know, we would actually say to each other that we're looking forward to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's what
Mm.
that was a scary thing as well. I mean,
now.
I think back to it now and I chuckle because you know it was
Well,
serious
for
stuff.
some of us, it was the only consistent routine we actually had. Like our lives were
Yeah.
very disrupted at that point. And, there was a lot of stuff happening, change, people were coming and going out of our lives, whether it was relationships or family stuff. But you knew, without fail, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the guys would be there. There would be pizza, there would be drinks, and there would be Dota.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
It was consistent. It was
it
stable.
was it got quite so crazy at one point. I used to, yeah, this is. Uh, I avoided like celebrating New Year's with my family, and I was busy, you know, having a jamming session with Size and some of our other friends as well. That's how like crazy it got. You know, it's just like don't worry about normal life. We're gonna do
And
this.
that's an example of how you can use it to scapegoat.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and that's that 80-20. You know?
And then I was yeah
Yeah.
definitely not a not a proud period in my life, but yeah, we've
Look,
since
it's not.
improved. Yeah.
You should
Remember
be
that you
proud of the
also.
fact that you recognized and came out of it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But you also, you know what? Yeah, you also have to look at it with a pinch of salt.
Mm.
Yes, you did all of this, but it's not like you didn't progress in your life. It's one area of your life, right? And you know what? If you look at habits and drugs and all these other things, having that as a drug, right? Because it's a dopamine,
Mm-hmm.
um, and having that
Far less destructive.
really, it's not the worst thing in the world that you
Yeah.
did because you still, how do I put this? You didn't lose physical ability, you didn't lose mental ability. You are still you, right? You
Sure,
just
sure.
you're looking at it from the point of this is lost time,
Mm.
right? And that's what you're looking at. You could have progressed so much further,
Sure, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's fine, that's good, right? But also, if you didn't do all of this, you would never look back and say, I, I, I didn't lose time, but also like I spent every weekend doing things that were different and all that stuff. But you never would have had the experience of. Now you know the next time you can easily define the next time you're going too far down a path that you shouldn't.
Correct, yeah. I agreed. I mean,
There's
So
I think we.
Yeah, I also think that I'm sorry, Ash,
Mm.
there's like Kuj is saying, there's definitely worse things that we could have been addicted to at the time, and we should certainly look at it as an addiction in many ways, because addictions are coping mechanisms.
Mm.
But
mm,
our health wasn't like seriously compromised where we ended up in hospital. Our mental states weren't seriously compromised where we had to check ourselves into a facility and get professional help. We
mm,
didn't put ourselves in massively financially compromised positions. Like there was not like gigantic outlays of cash where we start now selling off assets to try and recover that money
Sure.
because we were so desperate for something.
Mm.
We had a very cost effective means of escaping,
Mm.
and we were extremely fortunate in that. And the other thing is that you can certainly look at it as a loss of time, because time does equate to money in many ways.
Mm.
But the other way you could look at it is that you simply didn't have the tools at that age to progress the way you wanted to progress. You needed something to stabilize your life while you built up your tools. And this was arguably the healthiest addiction you could have chosen while you stabilized and while you built up your tools and assets and you equipped yourself to deal with whatever you were going through.
Yeah, I like that. I
yeah,
like that.
you put
Yeah.
it in better words than
I mean, what I'd like to add as well is that one of the associations that I built around, those weekends was I built a greater association or affection around spending time playing games rather than um, other areas. So if that makes sense, right? So I built, and you mentioned dopamine and things like that, and it provided a different sort of high, one that I looked forward to um, consistently. So I built that association as well.
It's community as well, though, because like on some level, we all knew we were going through something rough.
Yeah.
But like to sit amongst people that you also know are having a tough time, but you have something fun together, you don't feel alone. Whether we were sitting by ourselves and logging in or we all sat around a table and played, you didn't feel alone. And when you're going through something rough, the worst place you can be is to feel alone. And that gave us something where we felt like we had support, even though we didn't use it for a support in the traditional sense where we used it to progress ourselves.
Yeah.
That support kept us going.
I'll be the first one to stand up and say yes, that is 100% it as well. We're definitely, once again, my situation.
I mean, I was
I don't know if you,
useless. I mean,
I don't
I
know
was
if you
cuck.
remember, but
It was just
there was
fun
there's
being there.
yeah, I don't know if you remember, there was a huge step change over the years in how we also saw ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, because we used to start off playing, and everybody wanted to be like in the team. It was. But then after a while, we realized that I want to play just for fun. I don't have to play to win, right? I
Yeah.
don't have to play to be the best or whatever it is, but I'm playing for fun. And there was a marked mental step change in the way I saw things after that. Was not from the whole point of gaming or whatever, but the fact that I'm doing this because I get to be surrounded by specific people and I get to feel a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that taught me, right, that I can do these things and feel a certain way and enjoy them without having the pressure of um, forcing myself to do things that I don't necessarily need to do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that, look, like you said, it helps you build the tools, but it also helps me teach myself that even if I'm doing something, I'm not doing it perfectly. I can still enjoy myself.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not saying that it's still a full form of escapism, right? But there was some lessons. You know, I think
Oh, there was a
that's
lot of good
how
that
I
came. I
try to
don't
look
think
at
it was all bad at all. Like some really rich friendships were formed as a result of it. Like it's a mentally intense game as well. So like you think it forces you to think. Like maybe the mechanical skill isn't there, but you do certainly there's a strategy component, there's a synergy component. I mean, sometimes when you manage to pull off one of those wombo combos once in a blue moon, yes, it feels fantastic. You feel like you just won the lotto or something. It feels great. So like there's definitely good and bad that came from it, and I don't see it as necessarily lost time. I mean, we definitely lost a lot of weekends. But
yeah.
for me, I feel like personally, I was not in a space to move my life forward. So I mean, I can sit here and say for sure how much further would I be along in my life if I just got my act together then. But there was, for money or love, I could never get my act together at that point because I was all over the place. I needed to progress at the pace that I needed to progress at. Otherwise, I would have never made it.
I think that was true for all of us as well. We had to progress at that specific rate, if I had to say that.
Wouldn't be where we are now without the mistake.
No, definitely.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, so uh, listeners, we also went through some, well, tough times. So we're also not
Hey,
immune to.
life can hit hard
That's
sometimes,
true.
man.
That's
Don't we know it?
Um, so is there a way to break from the mold and move forward? I know we mentioned like it takes time, and probably self awareness, and if other people help you from the outside as well. Is there any other way to break free unless you just give it time, or something has to give, like you get
I would say,
yeah.
I would say the first thing for me is what do you want out of life, right?
Mm,
Not to say, I'm not saying, do you want to be a big boss? Do you want to have a lot of money? Just identify how you want to feel, right? Every day. And if you're not feeling that way, ask yourself that,
Mm.
right? And then you generally come down to a couple of reasons why my job sucks. The place that I live sucks, whatever it is, right? But then you automatically start picking up what it is that's the problem, right? And then you can target how you want to change those things.
Yeah.
And when you realize how you want to change those things, you'll find out where your blocks are, right? And what coping mechanisms you put in place for those blocks,
Mm.
right? Or things that you keep doing that keep you where you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you can start looking at ways of changing the habits and things that you do that keep you where you
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, you know if you're not happy with something in your life, and you know to. I mean, if you've been listening for a while to us, and I really hope you have, we've talked about how to identify misalignments.
Mm.
You know, that's a very broad term now, but when you're not in alignment with what you want and you're not having that sort of happiness in your life, you know that, you can feel it. And even then with us, we knew we were running from something. We just didn't know how to deal with it. So use that escapism to buy you space and time while you figure out, when you're using escape to run from stuff, and I use that word, take it with a pinch of salt. I don't mean any offense by that, but when you're using it to get away from something, then use it with intention. Say, I know I'm trying to run from whatever problem I'm dealing with, but while I'm in this space, I also need to try and figure out a plan and equip myself to move forward. It might not be at the pace you would like, but at least you like the point is to make some degree of progress, little by little. Like the first podcast, inches. That's exactly what it is. It's like you need to make some degree of progress, and you'll get there eventually. Break it up into small pieces, and then one day when you're in a happier space and your escapism is there to help you recharge, you'll look back on it and go, okay, you know what, made a lot of sense.
What if the environment doesn't provide for positive forms of escapism? Because you alluded to sitting in your form until to give you time and space. But what if the environment doesn't allow for it? You like we mentioned, ours was on a scale of 0 to 10. Ours was on like a 0.5 because it's gaming, right? It's
Yeah.
nothing major. The only thing that we could have suffered from was, what is that, carpal tunnel syndrome, for example.
And a bad neck and a back.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but what if they're faced with poor environments where there's like you mentioned, drug abuse and alcoholism and even worse things, like partying every day and staying out and all of that stuff. So if the environment doesn't provide for it, it might be a bit difficult to go to your escape.
Look, that's very true, and I'm certainly not qualified to speak about someone that's maybe being abused or is someone that's addicted to drugs and doesn't know how to get out of that situation. But there are publicly available forms of help, right? It's a terrifying thing to even go and ask for help, and you don't know, maybe there's going to be judgment or ridicule. You might not have the support from your family and things like that. But ultimately, right, no matter what happens, ultimately you are answerable to yourself before you are answerable to anybody else. And you got to look at your situation and go, right, either I will survive this or I won't. And if I want to survive this, I need to make certain changes. And maybe people will support me or maybe they won't. But I can go somewhere where there is support. There's definitely shelters and places like that, like publicly funded places, even, corporate funded places where you can actually go and get support for, if you're struggling with the drug addiction or if you're being abused at home. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's that. What I am saying is there are places you can go where it's maybe not the support you want, but it's certainly support in some way, shape, or form, and it's a step towards a healthier life. And if your situation is really that dire, like the last thing we want is for you to, see like there's no way out. There is an option. It's just not. It's not a comfortable choice.
100%. I couldn't say it better. If you want to make a change, you have to decide, right? And like you says, you are accountable. for your own life. Nobody's gonna give you any answers. If you need help, you're welcome to ask for help, right? But you have to be determined enough to want to get out of the situation that you're in. Until you make that decision, nobody. People can force you, they can lock you up, they can take away your money, they can take away everything that you want. But until you choose to change that habit within yourself,
Mm-hmm.
um, or what's being done to you, and if it's a situation where something else external is affecting you, and you can't fix it yourself, you can ask for help. There is someone that is there that will help.
Yeah. Like I said, might not be the help you want, but it's there. You just have to be willing to accept it. You can walk. I mean, walk into any church. Like I know religion's a divisive thing, but a church or some sort of religious institute, they'll find a way to help you. They'll direct you, or they'll try and help you themselves. There's community centers. There's shelters for different types of situations, whether it's abuse or drugs or whatever it is. But someone is there to help. It's just a case of you have to
Yeah.
say, okay, there's maybe not the help in the ideal form, but it's a start.
Agreed. Yeah, I like that. So there is a base framework that one can work from. I'm just gonna. There's 5 points to it, and we can discuss each one of them. So the first, I'm just gonna give it to you guys first, and then we can discuss them. Um, First one is identify what you are trying to avoid and why. And the second one is redefine what it means to escape. The third one is aim for smaller doses of escapism, as Dean alluded to earlier. Escape to the world you are already in. Um, and
Ooh, I like that.
and five, enforce the real life, real now rule. So what this means is, if I know there's something um, that I would enjoy doing and that's happening in real life right now, then I go and do that instead of, falling back to my escapism. So it's one again, identify what you're trying to avoid and why. Number two is redefine what it means to escape. Number three, aim for smaller doses of escapism. Number four, escape to the world you are already in. And number five, enforce the real life right now rule. So what do you think?
That's how we've done that without actually.
Some
Yeah, I mean, we kind of stumbled our way through it, but we got there.
yeah. Definitely the aim for smaller doses of escapism now. And when I'm studying on the side, I employ the 30 minutes 5 minute rule, where you study for about 30 minutes and then 5 minutes you give yourself to do whatever the hell you want to do, something enjoyable. And for me, it's that mini escapism. Like every 30 minutes, I'll send both of you like some Instagrams. So you'll know if it's on a 30 minute tick, you'll know what I'm doing. So for me, number three, yes, I identified that I do that very quite often.
Mm.
And for my earlier comment where I asked, my thoughts on escapism is that people use it to not face things in their lives. Uh, Speaks to number two on the list, which redefine what it means to escape. Um, I've redefined a lot of the things that I've used in the past to, or reframed it such that it's not an escape anymore. And then I escape to the world I'm already in. That one as well resonates with me.
I like you. You sectionalize the reading to small bits that are easily chewable.
Yeah.
Uh, that's me, right? My my rule based thing that I do.
Yeah, but what he does is created a scenario. There's room for play, but not
Well, I mean, we've made mistakes as well, but
no, no. I mean, like,
True.
if you made a mistake, you wouldn't make it for more than an hour
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
until you reset yourself.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
very structured.
Yeah. I think it also speaks to number one on the list, which is identify what you're trying to avoid and why. If you're able to do that, out of all of the list, if you're able to do that, that's like amazing.
Because you're not a procrastinator.
Well, I mean,
Or you've worked away, you found how to deal with it and
Yeah,
beat it.
yeah. You're not a procrastinator anymore.
yeah, yeah. Used to be a chief procrastinator before.
Right? Yeah, I'm still a procrastinator.
Same.
Well,
But also, I think the thing that I've noticed is that we'll procrastinate until there's enough pressure for us to do something. Right?
yeah.
So use that to our benefit.
I mean, we've spoken about this
Um,
before in the podcast, right? Where you said,
Yeah.
even Dean mentioned that he waits until the last minute, and then it's like he drank an Energade or a
The
Red Bull
brain
or
switches
something.
on completely.
You
Yeah.
know, that's what he waits for, and he gets
yeah, no,
that kick,
he,
some
he
sort of
does what works for him.
yeah,
Works for him.
yeah,
And you having a structured life and stuff works for
mm,
you. I mean, like totally different, but you're still getting stuff done.
yeah.
And I'm a little bit similar to you. Yeah, pressure that I can operate, you know.
That's when
But I'm trying to become more like you, where it's like, what are the things that I like doing? What are the things that I want to do? And try to actively do one or two of them.
yeah. I mean, that's more of enforcing real life right now rule. Finding what you enjoy that's happening in real life and doing that rather.
Yeah.
You know.
And then we've even employed the do the escapism in small doses. You know? With a lot of things, I try to do that. I don't sit and play games for weekends. I do it. Someone asked me today, "Do you wanna play Dota?" Well, I'm busy today.
Yep.
And I realized that I don't need it.
Not necessary.
No, we don't actually need it.
Yeah. But I would like to organize a day where we can do. You know?
Yeah, I'd like that too. In the future, we
Same.
can discuss that just now. One that
Yeah,
I
true.
wanted to actually talk about, number 4, because out of all the ones, this one seemed a bit airy fairy. Escape to the world you are already in. Like, how does?
I like the sound
Yeah,
of
I
it.
know.
I think practically it's a little
I
bit.
was about to
Yeah.
say, how do you
difficult
do
to
it in
execute.
real life?
Well, it's
So
it's clear. It's about building the ideal life, right? But the thing is, even when you have the ideal life,
Yeah.
you're always working towards something, or you're trying to do something like, and you need time to sort of recharge and decompress. Like the
I
pressure
you
can be
know
good pressure
yeah,
as well, but you don't want to be under pressure all the time.
I look at it a little bit differently. When it says escape to the world that you're already in, it could also mean this, look at the other options, right? That you can do in real life that one might grow you a little bit, but two also remove you from the daily hustle and bustle. Like, for example, going to like when was the last time you went,
About a week
A
ago.
few weeks back.
right? And that's a form of escapism. But what about when was the last time you've been to a market? You know?
Oh, long time.
Last
But
week.
you know what I mean? That's also a form
Yeah,
of
yeah,
escapism, one.
yeah,
But two, you're going out there, doing something new, trying something different.
yeah.
You know?
But it's also in
It's
the real
different,
world, and it's
but it's
engaging
life.
in environments. It's engaging with people.
Right.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. Yeah.
But also, you could look at it as you are doing something with your body and you're focusing. Like, at first, when you said it, I understood it completely. For me, it was like, don't go live in a different world. Try to be one with who you are right now, right? Like the Dalai Lama would say that, you know what? Now is the time. Now is not yesterday, not future, not past. You know, um, it's now, right? And that's how I saw it. But
Oh yeah,
there's
I
also
looked at it
another way
very
of looking at
differently. I
it.
didn't
Yeah,
see it as the now at all. I saw it as the build the world you want to escape into, so that you don't need an
yeah.
escape
I
kind of
think
thing.
wasn't that the
Yeah.
last point?
The last one is enforce real life right now rule, which means if there's something uh, that you know you'd enjoy doing that's happening right now, you go and do that.
Yeah.
That's the last one is.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe I mixed up the topic,
Yeah.
right?
Can happen.
Yeah.
But no, I like
But
your
I like.
interpretation of the fourth point though,
Yeah.
because escape into the world you currently live in, or you live in, or whatever it was, whatever the line is, it's a perspective thing. It's like appreciate what you have, because there's actually a lot that you could appreciate that you're maybe not appreciating because you're so focused on the one negative thing.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that that's how I thought that's how I saw it. But like,
I prefer your interpretation, if I'm honest.
uh, I think when he said the fourth point or something, we both went like, you know,
Yeah,
and
because I like the way it sounds. It's very catchy.
but I also do like your interpretation in terms of create the world where you can escape to, but a world that is not an escape. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Like you don't need the escape anymore.
Yeah,
But for
and
me,
I think
that's not 100% true because, like I said, you could be. There's different types of pressure. Like there's a lot of good pressure, like professional pressure that we put ourselves on. We know we're progressing, and it's not easy. But I wouldn't trade it. I like it. I'm very happy with it, but I don't want it all the time. You know,
100%.
that's why we go on leave.
I just, where I saw escapism. I think first and foremost, I think maybe some of the listeners might be too young for this, but remember Al Bundy from Love and Marriage?
Oh wow, yeah.
All he ever wanted to do is just come home, crack open a beer,
Yeah,
leg up on the table, and
yeah,
watch TV after his
yeah,
day at work. And I think that's a lot of stressed workers and things like that. That's when I saw like the first form of escapism. Now that I think about it, and that's a common one as well. Whoever it is coming home from work, all they ever want to do is just crack open a beer and just watch TV.
Like
yeah.
that
We've
moment where
actually
you
done that.
flop on the couch and like nothing to do
We've
anymore.
actually done that.
Crack open a cold one.
As soon as I got home, crack open a cold one, that
Well, okay, no, we've never done that.
No, but we have, as soon as we've come home, put the laptop on, done the update, and started playing.
yeah,
That's what we did.
yeah, that's a different ballgame.
We cracked open the
So
laptop,
there it
sat on
is,
our
cracked
chairs,
game.
and had a game. Yeah, but like we'll see these forms of escapisms on TV, but we won't recognize it until obviously later on. Now it always clicks whenever I see Al Bundy, even in Modern Family as well. We portrayed a similar sort of person. When he wanted just his time and me time and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I had realistically, and wanted to talk about today. Just the forms of escapism, good, bad. It affects all of us. Yeah,
Very nice topic.
it affects all of us. I guess even from toddler. I wouldn't say toddler. Maybe maybe just after preschool and things like that. From like 6 years old right until you're really old. I mean, there's no age limit or to escapism. Like really young kids use like video games to do that, and teenagers
Yeah,
will use grunge music and goth bands and etc. skate parks and whatever else, and adults will use um, alcohol, TV, and their own personal time. So it really does have impacts across age boundaries.
That's true.
you know, I realized something though,
Mm.
Right.
and you can actually use it as a line.
Mm.
Escapism shapes your escapism shapes who you
Mm.
Does it shape
in
it
a
or does
big way.
it help it or facilitate it?
Shapes in a big way because it, it can change a person completely from one type of person to another type of person purely because of the escapism that they delve
Whichever form it is, yeah.
into.
I think you're right for the most part.
Mm.
I think for me, the only thing I'm like struggling with is that for me, I don't know. I don't think it necessarily changes people like in en masse. Like there's lots of people where it would shape them 100%, but there's also some people where it's not gonna shape them, but it's certainly going to assist in whatever they're dealing with and help them get where they need to go. I think they're still going to be fundamentally the same people. It's just the route they take is slightly different, and it obviously will impart something along the way. It's not going to say that they're unaffected.
Yeah. Now, look, I'm not saying that it becomes me, but it shapes. Definitely.
Yeah, like I feel like for the most part it does. For some people, it plays a support role rather than a main character role.
That's why I said shaping instead of making. You know.
Mm.
Shaping, making, it's very close. I mean, shaping means you could turn out to be completely different with a different escapism.
I would think that's actually true.
For most people, I would say yeah, but not for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, until you break from
Look,
that
obviously, if
full
it's something massively toxic, like if you're taking drugs, then yes, that's going to shape your whole life. No questions asked. Right?
Yeah.
It's definitely going to shape things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it just depends on the escape.
Well, then, I mean, I just want to throw this one in there as well. How does one bring oneself back to reality then? If you're,
I think part of it's you have to be ready to do so. And ready can be ready because you're pushed, or ready because you now just time to make a choice.
yeah, like Guj mentioned earlier, you have to make a choice toward whether you want to change or
Yeah.
not.
Yep.
But the first step is noticing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Identify what
That's
you are
true.
trying
But
to avoid
Awareness.
and why.
Become
If you
aware.
have to actively, you have
Admit
to
that
want
you have the
to do that.
problem. That's true.
Okay. Any closing comments? Any last minute words of wisdom to the listeners?
I need to try and identify all my escape.
Yeah, we all have some homework to do.
Yeah. For me, I would say just when you're using your escapism, like we said earlier, it can be good or bad. It can be used to recharge, or it could be used to run from something. Just use it with intention. Like pay attention to what you're doing and be intentional about how you're using it and what you're trying to get out of it.
Same here.
Intention, I think, makes up that 90% difference.
It
Use it
really
with
does.
intention.
But I mean,
There's growth.
it also implies that you're conscious or self-aware of the fact that
Yeah.
you're trying to direct something
Exactly.
Yeah.
in some way.
You also that you're trying to achieve something with it.
Well, difficult if you're an 8-year-old who's unaware at that point. You know,
Fair enough. Very true. Very true.
playing games. You know, to get away from arguing parents, as an example.
Yeah, but I mean, also as a parent, you need to understand what escapism is
Yeah.
and recognize it in your kids,
Yes.
right? And then don't cut it out, but teach them
Control
in
mechanisms.
simple terms what it is, and then learn how to use it intentionally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I saw someone that basically said, I create these tokens, right? And the kid gets to use 3 tokens a day or 3 tokens a week or whatever. I couldn't remember the time period, or the structure, but you get 3 tokens and each token is a specific amount of TV time. You know,
Okay.
and that's an escape win. And she said basically, they get, whenever they want, they can hand me a token, go and do that in half an hour, whatever it is. And then that's it. You know, and they get 3 a day or 3 a week. I couldn't remember. Yeah, whether it's a daily or weekly or whatever. But that parent is teaching their child, listen, you have a hobby or a habit or a thing, and I think it's the form of escapism from what it is that you are doing. But you get to choose when you want to do it, and I won't stop you. But choose it with intention. You know, I'm going to have fun for the FTP.
I think that's cool. I'm
That's really
definitely
cool.
going
I
to use
like
that
that.
going forward. I have some people to try that
I
on
just tried
actually.
on TikTok or something. You know, escaping in TikTok. So
Where we all learn our
Ah.
modern wisdoms from now.
yeah.
Sublime algorithm at play there.
Oh,
Well, thank you both for taking part in today's session. It was really well. It was a really great discussion, and some gems dropped as well. So thank you both. And
Thank you for the topic.
yeah,
thank you.
and once again to our listeners, we really appreciate you. We really hope you have a magnificent week ahead and a weekend. And wherever you are, stay safe and yeah, take care. Bye.
Oh.
Bye.